I think I got my joy back. Not for real, but yeah, my PC got fried the last couple of days, so wasn't able to record anything, bruh. And while I was away, of course, the Gears of War E-Day multiplayer overview, or whatever you want to call it, drops, bro. And I think the biggest thing out of this entire trailer or overview, like I said, is definitely towards the end when they talk about the medals. Because if you've watched my previous video on Gears, you know that one of the things that I wanted them to bring back was the medals, bro. Because as I've said before, there's just something about the medals that feels like satisfying, it feels rewarding, and your work actually feels like you're doing something. Like most games nowadays, you just see these little XP bars and then you see like these quick little medals flash up. Like in Call of Duty, it's just like super quick. But I don't know, there's like weight behind the ones in Gears, from Gears 3 specifically is what I'm talking about. And as I stated in the trailer, the whole system is pretty much just revolved around Gears of War 3's medal system. And like literally, to me, this is the most important part that I wanted to see. Well, besides gameplay, but this is one of the most important parts because I want to feel rewarded when I play this game. When I play any game, that's the whole point. Like, you know, you want to have a great game loop, and then you want to have a rewarding feeling every time you play the game. And you know, they stated no more battle passes, which is beautiful because we already all know the corruption, the scam that is battle passes. And it's all just going back to a system where you can earn whatever you want. Like it's possible to unlock anything that you want just by playing the game. All right, but now this is what they say. So take this with a grain of salt because as we know, game developers don't always show up. They don't always deliver on what they say. And there is one concern about this, you know, part of the overview, which was, you know, they say that there's an instant gratification option, which is buying the iron, right? Which is making a return from Gears of War 5. And that concerns me because, you know, in Gears 3, we still couldn't do that. We still couldn't just buy the skins that we wanted to. It wasn't an option. And that concerns me that it is an option still. Like, it is nice because, you know, not everybody has, you know, not like me. I'm employed. I don't have 24 or, you know, 8 hours to play my game, right? So I may not be able to unlock every skin. And to me, that's fine. Like, if I want that skin, I should just figure it out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I shouldn't have to drop a bag. But like, I'm getting back to my point. You know, leaving that door open does scare me because most players nowadays are just gonna fall into that trap where they're just gonna want the instant gratification and they're gonna just pay for the skin, bro. And like, I get it, this is gonna be like a live service game, so you know they do need to make their money somehow. I don't know, it's just a weird, I just get a bad feeling anytime I see that, where we leave doors open. Like, really, in reality, we should just be shutting that door down if we want to completely indulge in a scam-free, you know, version of this game, right? You know, because everybody's gonna end up with FOMO and they're gonna end up just paying for whatever skin they want. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Tell me what y'all think. You know, like, I think it just scares me a little bit. But I definitely do think this is a step in the right direction, and hopefully, you know, other games can see the success that this game has, hopefully, like I said, and, you know, take something from it. And like, then the next thing I'll talk about is essentially the movement that we see from, you know, all the gameplays from all the people that have played the game already. You know, the sprinting, it looks fine. I'm not gonna lie. I think it works. I think it's like, it's not too Call of Duty-ish, or it's not too like Halo, you know, new Halo, you know, sprint, but it's not too much. It's not doing too much. Like, you can still move around the map efficiently, but I believe some players were talking about like they couldn't turn like quickly enough. And, you know, to me, like, the roadie run, you could not turn fast. I think that's the point of it. So in order for them to bring in like a quick turn while sprinting, it doesn't even make sense for the gameplay. Like, it just doesn't work. I don't see how that'd be effective, and it just wouldn't feel right in a Gears of War game. So I think they're good. I think the sprinting is perfectly good, at least from how it's looking. And then from what I've seen as well with the Gnasher, I think it's probably the most perfect Gnasher we're gonna see for a while. Like, it looks insane. And then, like, you know, they got the center shooting and everything, but it looks punchy, bro. Like, it has impact. And that's one thing about Gears that you gotta get down right every single time, obviously, because the game is just weighty in general. I mean, just look at the guys, they're like 350 pounds of pure muscle. But yeah, like, the Gnasher shots just look just meaty, bro. And like, the way everybody's exploding, it looks beautiful. We want to see that gore. That's just how it is. Gears of War, it needs to be like that. But one thing I did have concern with when watching like the multiplayer was, and actually Horde, but it was kind of like the latency issues. It was kind of looking like, you know, when somebody would shoot with a Gnasher and they would explode the person in front of them, it looked a little like laggy. Like, they would kind of explode a second after they had already died in the feed. It was kind of weird. I don't know if y'all had seen that, but it looked a little off. That's the only like bad gameplay thing I've seen that's very obvious. But overall, multiplayer is looking straight. I don't think it's gonna be too hard. It doesn't look too rough on new players. I think the sprinting is gonna add a sense of familiarity, like with the new players, which hopefully we get a lot more in this game. But it's definitely gonna feel more familiar than the roadie run, because the roadie run is just clunky. If you've never played a Gears before, you're literally gonna put your controller down and just quit the game, because the roadie run it looks atrocious in 2026. So the fact that they're going to the sprint, I think it works perfectly, because if you're an old Gears player, you still understand how the system works basically. But the sprint is gonna add a new, like I said, familiarity with new players. So I think it's a positive step. Now we'll see whenever we get our hands on it in 3 days, right? If you pre-ordered the game. But yeah, overall it looks really good, and the game modes look solid. So hopefully we get more of those. And they've promised that they will put more into the game. But I just don't know the timeline and all that. I'm not sure if they're dropping a timeline or a schedule of when they're expecting a release on any of these things, like maps, because I think there's only 6, which is fine for now, but that does kind of feel light, like on the lighter side. I'm not even sure how many Gears 3 or Gears 2 dropped with, but 6 does feel kind of light, especially in 2026, like I said. But they are gonna be all symmetrical, which is to me like a key point. I love a symmetrical map. Some people don't like it, but I've always been like a competitive person, when it comes to shooters, so I always love a symmetrical map. So next is Horde, which is definitely the biggest change in this game, like compared to the other Gears. With Horde Siege mode, right? It has like the Blitz version and then just a regular 40-minute gameplay of Horde Siege mode, and it kind of looks like Helldivers mixed with Space Marines mixed with old Gears of War with whatever. But it's just like it looks kind of crazy. Oh, and Arc Raiders, that's the other game I was thinking of. But it looks really good. I'm not gonna lie, because I'm somebody that put over 200 or 300 hours into Helldivers 2, so I loved that game. I didn't play much of Arc Raiders, but I understand that they're very similar in that obviously it's an extraction shooter, and this very much is an extraction shooter. And from the gameplay that I saw, it did look hard, and even on the lightest difficulty, which was, I can't remember the name, but on the lightest difficulty or easiest difficulty, it looked hard. Like, I'm not sure how the system's gonna scale, if the enemies aren't gonna get more health or they're gonna get more health. I'm not sure completely on that. Like, as it scales up, if you go to the next difficulty, are the drone's gonna have more health, or the wretches gonna have more health, or is it just gonna be a swarm version where as you rise in ranks or levels, there's more enemies per mission, right? And me personally, I've always sided with more enemies rather than like meteor enemies or bosses or whatever. Like, I don't find that fun when you have to shoot a drone with half your mag. Like, I don't understand it, and they're all headshots. Like, I'm not a fan of that. It just doesn't work for me. I get bored of that. That was one problem with I had back in the day, if y'all ever played The Division, which was a fantastic game. But one thing I did not like was the bullet sponging that the bosses would have, when you go to the final highest ranking or difficulty. I'm not a fan of the bullet sponge. Just give me more enemies. I will take that 100% of the time over bullet sponges. But yeah, the attachments and the upgrades, it's completely new. We've never seen this in a Gears, right? But it works really good. And one thing I was worried about was the bosses. I wasn't sure how that would play in a Gears game, and I don't think we got that good of a look at it yet with the people that have got their hands on the game first, because there's 12 people on the map, 3 teams of 4, but I feel like I didn't see a lot of interplay between the teams very often. It seemed mostly to just be like one squad, playing by itself almost. And I'm thinking in the later difficulties, you're gonna need to team up definitely more with the other squads. I think it'll be more of, an incentive to do that. And we just haven't seen that yet. So I'm kind of hesitant on that still. I think it's underutilized at the moment, but we'll see when the game comes out. And also, we have the 4 classes that are now in the game, and each one has its own role. The medic, the assault class, the sniper, and then your breacher class, right? I may have gotten the names wrong, but you understand the point of each class, right? And I'm definitely interested to see which ones are like the most overpowered whenever we get our own hands on it. But I want to know how important it is gonna be to actually have like each class whenever you're playing with a squad, or if it even matters. Like, I really want to understand how that's gonna work, if it's actually important or is it not. And I don't know how they're gonna balance it. I know there's some secret attributes that I've seen here and there about different classes, and like they get different boosts or whatever, but I want to know truly like how advantageous are you when you have one player playing as each role, right? Or when you have a player playing each role. And like I said, these are all things that we're gonna just find out as we play the game. But so far, man, I mean, it looks like we're back. I'm not gonna lie, it looks like we're back. I think we're finally gonna have a good Gears, bro. I mean, it's been 15 years since we got Gears of War 3, which I think is the last good Gears. I think most people would agree with that. And I think they've finally gotten close to that, because they're bringing in a perfect blend of new ideas, with all these other things, the sprinting and, the Horde siege mode. And of course, the graphics and details, they look beautiful. But, they're bringing those things in along with a lot of the old, of course, just the meaty, weighty feelings of the guns. They look to be all they look to all be there, while also bringing back the old cosmetic system partially, kind of. I mean, like I said, we never know until we fully see how it all goes out or how it all plays out, but it appears to be very much similar to Gears of War 3, which I think was the perfect system at the time, even better than Halo and Call of Duty back in the day. But yeah, man, I'm excited to just get my hands on this in 3 days and run it up and get to know the game for myself, because I'm tired of just watching clips and overviews and developers here and there, and then people having their hands on it. I want to get my own hands on it, so I'm ready for that. So yeah, let me know what y'all's thoughts were and if y'all are gonna end up playing the game, because I will be there. So yeah, appreciate y'all watching, and thank you for waiting for the next video, right? But yeah, that's all I got today. God bless. Deuces.